So I hope that's okay with all of you. Normally we end up having just a presentation and the one speaking here, so we don't show everybody again. But anyway, crucial conversations and conflict resolution, mostly crucial conversations, but that's part of conflict resolution. That's what we're talking about tonight. And I'll be Tom's wingman and just helping out on the way. We have discussed this before internally, and it's an extremely crucial topic to deal with, and I can only recommend people to pay attention, because it's so often that we get to the crossroads where our own behavior determines the outcome of whatever it is. But before we go there, we'll just have a quick check-in, and this time I'd like to introduce you to Piet Hein, a Danish mathematician, inventor, designer, writer, and poet. He invented a number of things. Some of you may know the game of hex, if you are have a mathematical disposition, and some of you may know the super egg that he invented, or the super ellipses. But he also wrote some odd poems that are called Grooks, and we'll use one of them from our quote cards as sort of a short reflection. And this follows the style of his short poems, and it says, "The road to wisdom, well, it's plain and simple to express, air and air and air again, but less and less and less." So I just want you to think about that for a short moment, and if any of you feel inspired that it provoked some thinking on your side, then let the rest of us know, what did that make you think? Anybody?
I guess the meaning of I have to think for a second.
I think the second part anyway, or the last part, meant that simplicity is the essence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yes, for me, it reminds me to my Norwegian colleagues when they realize that something meaningful is said, then they say, and, but then again, the end is not okay, because if meaningful, then more and more should be.
Yeah.
But just to share.
Yeah, for me it implied something like the same, like doubt. You know, I don't know what you mean, and then you
Make mistakes. Make a mistake. Make a mistake.
Like doubt, actually. Yeah.
Is the verb of error.
Yeah.
So if I sounds funny. I'm making an error.
Trial and error, and then experiment, and then you make less mistakes, and then you get to the point.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Henrik Niebuhr, who told me once, "Tom, it's fine to fail, but if you're failing and not learning, it's not very good."
No.
I said, "You're right about that."
Yeah. Yeah, and we put them into our quote cards that we have, and the reason for that was that, certainly for me, it reminds me of the very fundamental thing in anything agile or Scrum, is the feedback loop, that you do some things, it didn't turn out exactly as you wanted, but hopefully you will learn from it, and you will make less and less mistakes as you move along. It's certainly not good if you just persist in doing the same mistake over and over. That's not a qualifier. So let's say that we've checked in now, we're focused on this, and I think we will hand it over to Tom and take it from here. I'll stop this screen share, and the floor is yours, Tom. Let's go from here.
Okay, Anne, can you put the PDF and the Word documents into chat?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I don't like PowerPoint and I really suck at it. So I didn't do any PowerPoints, thankfully, I guess. However, we'll work off of the documents that Anne's going to put into chat here in a minute. And you're welcome to download. The documents are yours to download, of course. One is in PDF, but the other one is in Word. So you're welcome to take the Word document and edit it or add whatever you want to it on your own. I don't have any copyright over any of this material. It's generally broad material available out on the internet. So, and with that, I think what I'll do is share my screen because I'll bring the document up and we can all look at the document together. So the front page of the document really is the 3 books that these 4 authors wrote: Patterson, Granny, Macmillan, and Switzler. The Crucial Conversations book is in its 2nd edition. All authors know you have to go to multiple editions if you want to keep selling your book. I don't know what's changed in the 2nd edition. I don't have it. I only have the 1st edition. So, I would fundamentally think that the book has not changed significantly, of course, over the years. The general premise of the book remains the same. So they've also added a couple of other books over the years. I have this 2nd book, Crucial Confrontations: Tools for Resolving Broken Promises, Violated Expectations, and Bad Behavior, because they tend to extend beyond what we would deem to be general crucial conversations, where there may be disagreements or varying opinions over something. There still can be in confrontations, but here in confrontations, somebody's disappointed. Somebody violated a behavior, somebody didn't meet an expectation, and it's generally one party being disturbed and the other party seen as being responsible for the violation. So it's fairly different from Crucial Conversations. Most of the tenets in the book follow along with Crucial Conversations with some added things, and we won't be covering Crucial Confrontations in this webinar today. We're going to cover Conversations. The other one is a sort of a follow-on to Crucial Confrontations called Crucial Accountability. So again, it's along the same lines of the Confrontations book with a slightly different edge to it. And I'd encourage you to look at all 3. I would certainly encourage you to get the Confrontations or the Conversations book if you don't have it. Crucial Conversations cover probably 80 to 85% of the kinds of conversations we're going to talk about in this webinar here. So that's their 3 books. They also have a website, and I'll try to bring up the website for you here at the end so you can see. They do offer online training, and I have not observed the online training. I don't know how it compares to what we used to do in person with it. I assume it's fairly similar, full of exercises and things like that. In fact, I was just looking through my participant workbook for when I took Crucial Conversations close to 15 years ago now. And in that workbook, you basically go through the various exercises and to reinforce what's delivered in the book. So at that time, when I went through it, everybody got a copy of the book, and we also got the workbook. And then their model was at the time that they did not go out and train people. The authors and their company did not go out and train people. They modeled the train the trainer program. So at my company, we sent people to them to be trained as Crucial Conversations trainer. I was not ever trained as a trainer in it. I participated in it as a student. However, when the trainers in my company asked me if I would assist them with training, and so I did that on several occasions. So that's fundamentally what my background is with Crucial Conversations. When we were moving towards using Scrum at my company in 2005 and onward, it became apparent that people that were on self-contained teams that were fairly persistent, even at that time, that they needed to have these kinds of skills, because you're going to have conflicts and disagreements in any kind of work group that you put together. So people that were working on Scrum teams, those teams went typically as a group, went through Crucial Conversations training together. And it was a 2-day training. I think it still is a 2-day training, even virtually. I think it's a 2-day training. They may spread it out over 3 days, but conceptually, it covers about 16 hours of instruction. So let's move down to the second page, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, what really defines a crucial conversation, and it's right on the front of the book. So typically there's 3 elements to a crucial conversation, right? The stakes for either party are high. The opinions vary, so there's chance for disagreement and conflict over, you know, the stances of the parties. And then emotions can run strong in these. Usually if the disagreement starts to escalate, then we start to see emotions running stronger and stronger as people tend to become more entrenched in their position, more defensive about it, if I might put it that way, and more offensive in the terms of being assertive about what their position is. So I put examples here of crucial conversations generally and broadly out on the web and out in the public sphere. Things like ending a relationship, obviously talking to coworkers about issues, personal things like asking a friend to repay a loan that you provide them, or any kind of feedback that comes from a supervisor to a report, even feedback that comes from peer to peer. You know, like when you're critiquing a colleague's work, or there's some expectation that you provide an opinion about the quality of something that was done, things like that. And of course, getting into confrontations, that book of Crucial Confrontations and Crucial Accountability, talking to people who haven't kept commitments or they failed in other expectations. Those are still considered crucial conversations, even though they're addressed more broadly in the other 2 books. If you look down here, bear with me just a minute. If you look down here, this is the fundamental diagram that exists about crucial conversations. So what happens when a conversation starts to turn crucial? People that are knowledgeable and adept at crucial conversations quickly realize when a conversation is turning crucial. I was just telling a person at the beginning of the webinar, it happened to me yesterday. And because I had a background in this, I could immediately see that the conversation was turning on what we call a crucial angle. There was starting to be assertiveness on the part of the other party. Sometimes you get a sense of tension growing or assertiveness on the part of somebody. Frustration is another emotion that you can detect. So any kinds of these elements that are on the outside circle, moving to silence, so they withdraw from the conversation. They get frustrated, they won't engage. Avoiding, so perhaps the crux of the conversation is one thing, but they're avoiding talking about that, or they're deflecting. That's another thing that you see happen, is they deflect the conversation towards a different angle, if you will. And then the other one is masking. This is one that we encounter a lot. Masking is really the process of hiding something, it sometimes has elements of avoidance to it, but when we say they're masking, what their true intent is, they're sort of spurious about what are they trying to achieve here, or what's the real problem. A lot of people couch it in those terms. What's the real problem? And so the inner circle there, safety, and you've probably heard a lot lately about psychological safety. I first encountered it when I went through Crucial Conversations training, formally encountered it, about this idea that you have to make the conversation psychologically safe for both parties. You have to make it safe for yourself. You have to make it safe for the other party. And we're going to see a couple of examples here in a moment. One where a conversation goes badly, a crucial conversation goes badly, and another one where it goes better. So, and then what you want to get into, and this is ultimately the goal, is to get into this pool of shared meaning. What do we both want out of the conversation? Where, I tend not to use the word compromise. That can be a pretty evocative word, but where can we find common ground? You'll hear that term a lot when people talk about these kinds of conversations. What kind of common ground can we find? What do we both want out of the conversation? And let's look at it from a win-win, right? So we're not looking at it from a win-lose proposition. It's how do we both get fundamentally what we want out of the conversation. And this pool of shared meaning, sometimes called pool of shared understanding, is where we're trying to move the conversation. Even if a person that you're engaging in a crucial conversation doesn't know these skills, you can still move the conversation this way. You can still bring it back around to what is it we both want. In fact, that's a term that we often use in conversations. Let's explore what we both want out of this conversation. What is it that we both would consider beneficial to us? I get away from terms like win-win, things like that, and I just try to push it towards where do we both want to end up at the end of this conversation. And we'll talk about there are times where safety is violated, and either the other party isn't going to feel safe in the conversation, or you're not going to feel safe. Your steerage of the conversation back towards this shared meaning center is obstructed. And so sometimes what you have to do, and I've had to do this, is you have to walk away from the conversation. You have to terminate the conversation. And many times that means physically removing yourself from the conversation. Stopping it. I've told people, hey, let's get back together after things cool down a little bit. I always couch it from my perspective. I feel frustrated right now. My emotions are running pretty high. Give me some time. Let me step back, cool down a little bit, and maybe we can get back together. Even if it's the other person who's you know, whose emotions are progressively getting more difficult to achieve a crucial outcome, don't point at them and say your emotions are running high. You need to step away. Be the person that steps away from the conversation, even if it's the other person who needs to calm down a little bit. The other thing is, if you both have skills in this, you'll recognize it immediately. And I've observed people who have crucial skills, and they understand when they're getting into a crucial part. They also understand what the process is to dissipate the emotion, to get back on the path, we call it, and to get to the center portion that you're talking about here. So if you look down, they have some axioms in the book, and it's also in the course. So start with your heart. You know, what is it I want out of this? And work on you first. That's the work on me first. Let's make sure that I am in a position to have a healthy, crucial conversation. I'm in a position emotionally to have this. I understand what's going on. I realize it, and I appreciate what's going on. And then this gets back to refocus, or continually focus on that center part. Where do we want to be at the end of this conversation? What do we want? And let's work at getting there. You're not going to immediately jump to that. At least it doesn't happen very often that you immediately jump to that. It's a journey towards the center, right? So you have to say, you know, what is it that I really want? And secondarily, but not subvertently, you have to understand what the other person wants out of the conversation. You can't dismiss that. You can't subordinate that, right? What they want out of the conversation is equal to what you want out of the conversation in importance and in the dialogue. So again, you're not trying to win here. This isn't a zero-sum game. I get what I want, you don't get what you want. That's not how we look at crucial conversations. It's not a zero-sum game. There's not a winner and a loser here, right? And then again, this last part is really important. Refuse selection of the sucker's choice. The sucker's choice is, okay, I'm going to abandon what I want in the essence of peace, or you know, so I can't be honest and have peace. So I'm going to focus on the peace thing. Again, I can't focus on winning and them on losing. So what we look for is this and. I'd like this and you would like this. And always check back, you know, for understanding. Am I understanding what you want? It seems to me you want this. So reforming their thought in your mind and expressing it back to them to check, to validate, is that what you want? Right? And you can still say no about something, but you have to look for alternatives. It's not no, and that's the end of the conversation. It's, from my standpoint, it's no on that, but where can we achieve yes together? Or maybe it's no for you on that, but where can we achieve an essence of yes together in the blue part, the shared meaning part? So the next thing, you start with your heart. You know, you focus on what it is both parties want. You don't make sucker's choices. You're looking for a win-win. But you have to learn to look at things. You got to learn to look at your environment. Are you in an environment where you can have a crucial conversation? For instance, one time I was in an environment where a person was arguing with me and they were surrounded by allies and they were chipping in too. You know, he's right, blah, blah, blah. So what I suggested to the person is, why don't we meet together alone and talk about this? I don't feel safe with all these people in the room advocating for you. I don't feel that my position is being respected, nor do I think it's working towards a shared meaning here. So, and the person kind of looked at me and I said, you know, I'm going to step away. Get back to me when you're ready to resume the conversation, when we can have it together alone. And I left the room. So there are times where, because of the environment you're in, there could be an element of hostility in it. You want to try to neutralize those kinds of environmental effects. Again, you don't know when a conversation is going to turn crucial. You might be talking about something that seems very plain, very ordinary to you, and suddenly the other person reacts strongly, or they have the same thing and suddenly you react strongly to it.
Tom,
you know,
would you mind zooming in a little bit? There's a couple people asking to read the text. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. So you got to appreciate things can turn crucial when you least expect it. You don't, this happens in political discourse. You say something and somebody says, wait a minute, that's completely stupid, or absolutely not, or things like that. So again, you have a choice. Am I going to move the conversation ahead, or am I going to, use avoidance here and I'm not going to talk about it anymore? When you don't talk about things, it's left unresolved. There's no shared understanding. So what typically is, the parties separate and they sometimes they walk away and they go, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't think at all the way he should think about these things, rather than trying to understand. And this is probably one of the worst things that's happened in political discourse. I only wish politicians had crucial conversations training, because probably, and I think they handled crucial conversations over the years very well. Seems to be in the last several years that this has been abandoned. That again, as I mentioned, look for safety problems. Like, I was in an environment where I didn't feel safe. I felt like I was being ganged up on, right? So call out safety problems. I don't feel safe here. You don't necessarily have to put it in to articulate it that way, but that's basically how I put it to the person. I go, I don't feel safe, being surrounded by a bunch of people that are supporting you, and I think that's affecting our conversation. And then look back to see what the other side's doing. Are they moving towards silence or violence? So when we say violence, we don't mean that they're attacking you physically. They might. I've never had that happen, but attacking you emotionally or psychologically. You're an idiot, or that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So you want to pacify that to the extent of saying, look, let's put that, let's put those kinds of opinions aside. That isn't going to do either of us any good in trying to resolve this issue that we've got. Let's try to get back and figure out what we both want out of this thing. Okay. And look for, there's a portion of the book that talks about your style under stress. Most times when we're engaged in crucial conversations, it applies stress to us. And you have to learn, how do I manage my stress in these situations? How do I basically manage my emotions so that I don't fall into what we call the emotion trap? Because once I get in there, it can be difficult to get out of it. A lot of times you have to step back, and I've had to do that. Well, I actually said to a person, I said, look, I'm getting frustrated and I'm even getting angry over this. That's not healthy for the conversation we're having. I need to step away. I want to resolve the conversation. I want to resolve the issue, but I need to, I need to step away and take some time and figure out what happened, right? Retrospect on what happened here. How come I got emotional over this? The other thing that can influence actually how you engage in crucial conversations, people, is your personal preference for the person. Do you like them? Do you dislike them? It is more difficult to engage in crucial conversations with somebody that you have a dislike for. It just is, right? So you have to learn, under the premise of being professional, of working through something, even if you're not in a professional setting, but you're in a social or personal setting, to remember, I need to respect them. I need to respect their opinions. I may disagree with the opinion, fine, but let's not denigrate the conversation down to the point where we're calling each other names or we're getting frustrated with each other, that sort of thing. So again, I've talked about make it safe. Step out if you need to. Get away. And there's nothing wrong with that. There can be conversations that it happened to my sister and I about a year ago. I said, look, I got to step away. And she was getting very emotional about it, increasingly angry. But I said, I need to step out. I didn't say you need to step out. I said, I need to step out. I'm going to take some time away. Let's come back together after, things cool down a little bit. Decide which condition of safety is at risk. Is it mutual purpose? Like we're not getting towards the center of where we want to be, that pool of shared meaning, or is it respect that's at risk here? Am I being disrespected, or am I disrespecting somebody? And it doesn't matter whether I feel I'm disrespecting them or not. That's not the issue. It's how they feel. That's the thing in crucial conversations. It's not how I feel when it's them that's speaking a position of respect or however you want to couch it. So if they say, I think that's disrespectful, acknowledge. I said, I fully understand and I agree. And apologize immediately. I'm sorry. That was wrong. I'm sorry. So move it back to the path, right, of getting towards that shared meaning. So, and you can contrast to fix misunderstanding. You can say, I'm sorry you felt disrespected. That wasn't my intention. If you felt that way, I appreciate how you feel. That's empathy, right? All of us have felt disrespected at some time. So I know what that's like. Most people know what it's like to feel disrespect. I understand. So when you contrast it, you can say, let me, I apologize, I was wrong. And then say, I want this to be respectful. I'm contrasting what happened with what I want. I want the conversation to be respectful.
Tom, sorry for interrupting you. Do you want to take questions as we go along or at the end?
No, we'll take them at the end because I want to get through this. There's an acronym called CRIB, Commit, Recognize, Invent, Brainstorm. So during the course of your conversation, you want to try to get mutual commitment. We want to get to the center. Let's commit that that's where we want to be. We want to be in a win-win situation. So if I can get the other person to commit to that they're not interested in them winning and me losing, that's a safety issue, right? That we're both looking for an outcome that we can live with, right? It might involve compromise. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a win-win for us. So you have to recognize, and people that are skilled in crucial conversations recognize when those paths diverge, right? That's what they have a sort of an innate sense about, this is starting to go off path. And you can invent, inventing and brainstorming, you can say, what if we think about this, or what if we approach it this way? So you're offering alternatives and you probe the other person. What do you think? Do you have alternatives to it? So then you start, that starts formulating your path to where you can both recognize where's the path going to lead to the center. And you know, this master your stories. When you get into a when you go into a crucial conversation, knowing that it's going to be crucial because you have a disagreement or whatever, get back to the path as quickly as you can. Stay to the facts. Watch out for what they call clever stories, victimization, vilifying somebody, or I'm helpless. You know, that won't help me. It's helpless. So again, you want to get back to the point where how can we help each other here, right? Oops, sorry. So I'm getting an echo. I hope I'm all right. So you want to state your path, right? Share your facts. Let's see if we can agree on what the facts are here. Tell your story. This is my premise of it. Ask others for what their premise is, right? Just make sure there's understanding about what the conflict is about, or what the argument's about, what the disagreement's about. And this is probably one of the most difficult skills to master. Listen actively and observe cues. And as I say about the old Montana cowboy adage, never miss a good chance to shut up. You know, just stop talking and listen. And digest what's coming into you, actively listening to it. And don't go immediately back to a response, right? That's often what we're entrained to do just through years and years of conversation. I've already thought of a response to their argument. I've already thought of a counter argument. You have to really work on this. This is probably one of the most difficult things. Don't go to that place. Just wait. And then always encourage testing of emotions and position. How do you feel about what I said? What do you think about that? And it could be critical. That's fine. You know, because when they start giving feedback to you like that, then you can figure out how's the path got to diverge here. How might I have to diverge my path in order for us to get to a position in the center where we both get what we want? So that's when you explore the other's path. What is it that you want? Let me make sure I understand. So I'm going to repeat back to you what I think you said. Make sure that what I'm saying back to you is accurate, right? We call that mirroring. I want to say back to you what I think I heard, right? And then finally, when you've overcome all this combativeness and and you're finally moving towards the center, now you got to move to action. What do we want? What do we both want out of this? What are we going to do? Right? What's the solution for us that gives us to a place of mutual agreement, or at least mutual satisfaction or mutual acceptance? What's that shared pool look like when we get there? So there's a guide down here that sort of talks about these various principles I've talked about. And I'll use some final thoughts here. This is all about practice. And you're going to practice it when you're not even thinking you're practicing it. So you have to, the biggest thing is to have succinct and concrete awareness about these kinds of conversations. Understanding immediately when one's happening or about to happen. Sometimes they're premeditated. You know, two people are coming together about an issue that's been outstanding. Sometimes they arise spontaneously. You don't even realize it, and then all of a sudden. So you have to try to habitualize this and, make it second nature to you. And then again, this is so important. I just can't stress this enough. Start with yourself. How am I behaving in this conversation? Is it detrimental to getting to the pool of shared meaning? And if so, what do I do to stop that? And that's why when you keep mirroring and getting reflection back and feedback back, you'll know if you're on the right path towards that. And again, focus on what you really want to have happen. Don't lose focus of that. Don't turn so much attention to the other person that it's all about them. There's mutuality here. I want something out of this and you want something out of this. So don't lose sight of what you want out of something. That doesn't mean that you have to get it at the expense of the other person. It just means, look, when we get to the end, I want to have some satisfaction that we both win on this situation. I'm just going to show you two quick videos. One is one about one that goes a crucial conversation that goes badly, and then what follows is the same conversation when it goes well. So let me see if I can share this. So this is on YouTube, and if you go out on YouTube and you search crucial conversations, you'll get hundreds of examples of crucial conversations. You'll get dozens of videos, you know, some animated, some real life, about all of these things that we talked about, how they fundamentally work and that sort of thing. So let's take a look at this.
I agree. We need to pick the client up from the airport, but we are not using a limo service. It is over the top and totally unnecessary.
Well, that's just great. Why don't we just throw them into the back of a pickup? I've got a backpacking tent and a sleeping bag they could use in the parking lot. That should make you an even bigger hero with accounting.
Is that what you think of me? That I'm just out to get some sort of recognition?
Hey, don't get defensive with me. But it does seem that what's more important to you is saving money rather than making money. I don't know who you're striking a pose for, but it certainly isn't the client.
Is that what you think of me? That I'm someone who just cares about myself and nothing else?
I don't know, Trenton. Search your own heart. All I know is that I get no support from you when it comes to doing what's best to win new business. There's got to be some motive behind what you're doing.
You are out of control, Jordan. You know, I don't have to take this from you. You know what? You spend what you want to spend, but I am not signing off on your expense reports. You are on your own.
All right.
I agree. We need to pick up the clients at the airport, but we are not using a limo. It is over the top and totally unnecessary.
Can we take a minute to talk about something that's a concern to me? I think we'd both benefit from the discussion.
We are talking about the limo, and I am not taking any more flack from corporate over wasteful and self-serving spending.
Well, I'd like to talk about what our spending priorities should be. When I brought up the idea of having a limo meet the clients at the airport, you made a final statement that we aren't using a limo service.
And we aren't using a limo service. It is not an option.
I don't think we should do it needlessly either. In this case, the client has a tight turnaround, only an hour to spend with us. If we let them get a rental car like last time, we may end up with only 30, 40 minutes for our pitch. We don't have anyone who can pick them up. Now, we've been over these points before, and you don't seem to disagree with them. That makes me wonder if the reason you want to forego the limo is to avoid having to justify the expense with corporate, even if it might be a wise decision. Is that part of what's going on here, or something?
Where is he? Where is he?
Not exactly.
Well, if you see it differently, I'd like to hear your view.
Well, to be honest, we've had so many receipts coming in that have been seemingly excessive. I've had to go back and forth with corporate just to get them paid. I feel like I'm losing credibility with them. My fear is that they'll limit our budget if I come at them with something like this.
I've said for years that crucial conversation.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. So you can see in the first one, there was a lot of aggression and violence. They got off their paths, right? They got defensive with each other. In the second one, the person in the blue shirt seemed to have crucial skills, right? So he brought it back to, wait a minute, he didn't say this to the person, of course, but he's thinking, I wonder where we can get to some kind of shared meaning here. The shared meaning obviously was, hey, if we don't pick them up from the airport, we're only going to have a limited amount of time to spend with them. So the mutuality of, oh yeah, that's a problem, right? Then that's where he started to guide the conversation towards some kind of understanding and mutually beneficial outcome for both of them. And it didn't digress. You saw him go into the rabbit hole about other things in the first conversation, right? It went way off path on those kinds of things. So a person who's skilled in crucial conversations wouldn't digress off into those things. They would get back to what is it we're trying to solve here? We're trying to solve a time problem, right, for this person. Any questions about any of that? You ever had a crucial conversation?
Well, plenty.
I know there was some question about whether we or whether I would take questions. So I think this is a time if you have questions.
So Tom, my question is about the role of the Scrum Master, if this should happen in the presence of the Scrum Master.
So what's the question exactly?
So if there's a crucial conversation going on, should the Scrum Master get into being some sort of intermediary, or should the Scrum Master just say, no, these are adults, let me just let them go at it and solve their own problem themselves?
I don't know. What do other people think? Should a third party intercede if the conversation's?
Yeah, sure. I think we are all part of our culture, and I really, as a Scrum Master, at least I have to mirror the situation to the people, to recognize that they are not in a good conversation. So then they should at least take a 5-minute break and calm down and continue on another level. Actually, I really experienced it, and it's a hot topic for me. One of my teams consists of 3 really independent personality, and they are all respectful, but they really want to be respected, but they don't give the respect to each other every time. So then I had to take a big breath and just to ask them how they feel themselves in these conversations, because for me it's really uncomfortable. And a miracle happened. Then now they asked for a possibility to take part in a training, a communication training. So I think it's worth to mirror them this problem.
Thank you, Sophie. That shed some light. Thank you.
One thing I like to add is that when I've worked as a Scrum Master, worked with the team, I try to get the sort of rules of engagement here that they can always call me in as a Scrum Master. I will not muzzle in on their conversation unless they're sort of about to be physical violence or something. Then I might try and stop them, but and say by invitation. I mean, you can call me in, and I really do think that the Scrum Master should have some of these skills here, because there will be these crucial conversations as a Scrum Master. And the other thing is, when I've encountered that something had gone wrong, I have sometimes as a Scrum Master taken people one by one and asked them, how did this get out of hand? And see if we can find a way to get back to it. But only being the mediator if I'm being asked for by both parties. You cannot be a mediator unless both parties accept you. So yeah, I can see Satya has a question.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is during my career experience, I have undergone so many conflicts with my bosses or with the leaderships. So because they have more power and authority, so basically I don't have the psychological safety there to express my opinion and to say yes, I agree or I disagree, or I step back for some time, like Tom mentioned. So it would be nice if you give me some tips or ideas how we can do that. And the second one is on the introverts. When the introverts are there, they are, like he mentioned, they are silent or they are moving away. So, but as an organization, I want to pull them back to come or work towards a solution. So what do you think about these two scenarios?
Well, let me take the first one. The ability to have crucial conversations is agnostic about power structure. I've had crucial conversations with executives. So the skills embodied in crucial conversations allow me to have those conversations no matter if there's a power disequilibrium between me and somebody else. Now, if both parties have crucial skills, both parties recognize those the various aspects of a crucial conversation. If one party doesn't have them, then it's incumbent upon the person that does have the crucial skills to guide the conversation towards a pool of shared meaning. And you can do that. I've seen it. I've seen crucial conversations especially between a boss and a subordinate, where both parties had crucial skills and and got to the pool of shared meaning. One where the subordinate party had the crucial skills, but the other one didn't. And that's why in our organization, everyone on our Scrum teams had to go through crucial conversations training, because we didn't want to have happen what Phil talked about. I don't want to get in the middle of a conversation no matter who I am. It's not my conversation, right? That's not my place. Now, even when we had crucial conversations training, we would have people hear a disagreeing conversation and somebody would just comment, oh, that conversation's going crucial. It was sort of a prompt for both parties to think about, wait a minute, this is now getting crucial on us. And both parties and everyone on our teams had the ability to apply these skills. Now it's a choice, right? If I choose not to apply the skills and I let the conversation go south, as we say, then that's on me, right? If I'm not taking advantage of the skills I learned, then it's on me. So the second one, introversion and extroversion, has nothing to do with this. And introverts are not, I'm an introvert, so I regularly engaged in conversations. Most of the time, people don't engage in conversations because of the safety aspect, whether perceived or real. Doesn't matter to them. I perceive it's unsafe. So it's unsafe. If I perceive it that way, it's unsafe. So whoever's having the conversations has to make sure that the environment and that the conversation itself is safe, and they have to validate that with the person. something along the lines is, I want you to feel safe that we can have this conversation. And if you don't feel safe, tell me, and we'll do whatever we need to make it safe for you. So it's incumbent, it's not, safety is never presumed in a crucial conversation. Safety is constantly recognized as existing or not existing, right? And a lot of times it's a checkpoint thing. Hey, I just want to make sure you're feeling safe to have the conversation, right? So probably the biggest problem I see in organizations and across teams is the inability to apply these skills because they don't have the skills. They don't know them. And that's why I encourage everyone to take these courses, because the effectiveness of what you learn in these courses is so paramount to how you interact, not just with people within teams or groups, but how you interact personally with people, socially with people. And you can I recognize when people have crucial skills. I don't come up and ask them, oh, you've been through crucial conversations training. They may or may not have been through it. I don't know. But they demonstrate the ability to do the things that we were talking about in the document, whether they were trained to do it or not. And that's one of the things the authors recognized when they first wrote the book is the highest performing organizations that they observed were organizations that demonstrated these skills broadly across the board, even though the book hadn't even been written yet. So it was ingrained in them to have these kinds of conversations. Other questions?
Very good.
Can I just before we people start if we're turning around the clock here, can I just announce the next webinar? Would that be all right with you, Tom?
Certainly.
Go ahead, Anne.
Thanks. Just want to can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
We have another webinar in a little less than 2 weeks, and I think both presenters are present, and the topic is the Scrum Master and emergent risk awareness, or it's sort of an exploration of this idea of the Scrum Master as the risk immune system of an organization. So if you want to join and discuss that, you're very welcome to. And I also just want to say where we're from here at the end. We are from Agile Lean House, which is an organization based mainly in Denmark, but with branches in other countries as well. And we do education, assistance, and we make tools. And you'll get these slides afterwards, and you can look us up at agileleanhouse.com if you want to. This is a sort of a depiction of the different courses we have. I don't think there are a lot of Danes present here, but if there are any, we have one coming up soon, Scrum Master Advanced course. And these are some of the tools that we have and we've developed. We have Agile cards, which are estimation cards, and we have an online version of that that's called Cool Estimation. There are free trials if you want to try it out. It enables you to do effort estimation and value estimation, complexity estimation, and cost in teams or with your stakeholders. And then we have a bigger tool called Agenda, which is a workflow tool that especially caters to the needs of product owners and others are involved with prioritization. So that was my 2 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Yes, you know, I mean, we had to do a commercial, didn't we? So it's our game, and we'll we have passed 8 o'clock, and I want to thank everybody for showing up, and I'll stop the recording here, and it'll be made available to those who have registered for it.